Hey everyone, my name is Andrew Davis, and you're watching Conversations in Pop Culture. And yes, I am scandalous like an Ashley. And I do want to remind everybody that this episode is brought to you by my friends over at Pocket Jack Comics, and they have comics coming to a local comic store near you. And you can right now check out copies of their sexy comics, Guinevere and the Divine Factory and Palace of the Golden Princess, at pocketjackcomics.com. And you can go to that website and sign up for their email list to get some free PDFs and look for some very hot and sexy and maybe not so safe for work covers at your local comic store coming in March and April. But beyond that, I have with me a legend and a very, very, very interesting individual. And I'm sure she's going to give you some background on who she is, but it's Savannah Fox. So welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no, I am excited. I am very excited. I am purposely being vague in describing you because I think you can describe yourself better than anybody else. But we're going to talk about a lot of stuff. But before we do, why don't you tell everybody who you are? Because there's people who know you, there's people who don't know you, and hopefully there's going to be a bunch of people when they see this live and after the fact that fall in love with you and potentially write you a bunch of money or indirectly give you money. But anyway, so what is your background and kind of catching everybody up on who you are?
Sure. Well, I've been, we'll say in the industry, entertainment industry for about 10 years now. I started my career as an adult film star. I really had so much fun. I kind of came known for my big butt. Then I started on this website called Ultimate Surrender. You may have heard of it. But so it's a lesbian wrestling site, and for the first time in my life I really got to wrestle people, and I realized I'm pretty good, and I got to combine both a really good fun we'll say a little talent with my career, and then it honestly just kind of took off from there. I started doing a lot of wrestling, some shows. I met really good, awesome other female wrestlers, and we just have a lot of fun together.
Yeah, so let's actually talk about that because obviously the internet is 10 years ago was not what it is today.
No.
And obviously places like Kink were kind of, one of a kind, and now there's a lot more options. But what was that like really coming into the industry 10 years ago? Because it was very different than it is now. And I was 21 10 years ago. I'm 31 now. And obviously I remember the industry being a certain way, and it's obviously evolved in a lot of ways. And so what was that like? Because I feel like every 10 years there's a shift to some degree.
Absolutely. You're totally right. We're even just like, I think, just like anything else, it kind of mimics the culture around us. Everything changes, everything's adapting. Like, especially what you said, like the internet, 10 years ago, it wasn't such a big, wide place. And I honestly, I love the internet for that, because when I first started working, everybody kind of has this idea of what they think is like sexy, what people want to see and do. And then like, I'd have all these fans writing me and they're like, oh my God, I love, like, your arms are so sexy. Can you flex for me? And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? Oh, your legs are so thick and fat. I'm like, oh, they are? And they're like, oh, I love them. I want to jerk off to them every day. I'm like, wow. So like, it really kind of got like me introducing to a lot of new different types of people and fan. I realized kind of there's something for everybody. And I loved being able to kind of provide that thing and feel like a safe space for people. And then getting to do kink was kind of like the same thing for me. I know you say it's like, oh, kink.com, BDSM. I just pictured, guys in like leather gimp masks, and it's like zippered shut and like whips and chains and shit. And like when I started working for kink, it was like, it totally opened my mind to a different mindset of what it actually was and what it involved and how it went so much deeper than what a lot of people think it is.
Yeah, let's actually even talk about that too, because obviously you're doing Ultimate Surrender, and that's what I know you from. And then I also know you from what Ultimate Surrender sort of became to some degree, which was Evolve Fights and Evolve Les Fights. But what is that like? Because obviously you had a slight brand before all that, but I feel like Ultimate Surrender really built a good chunk of your brand, got you in front of a lot of people. And what is that like? Because then you were doing some other stuff, I think, for Kink and some other sites, but it kind of started there where it's kind of like people are like, oh, who is Savannah Fox? I know her from this. US, and then, oh, I see her in this, and then I see her in this, and then I see her in this. And so what was that like? Because I
Absolutely.
think it's a really complicated thing, what builds your brand.
So, like you said, it kind of, I was working for kink.com doing a lot more of the other hardcore sites. And then Ariel X, who at the time was running Ultimate Surrender, is the director. And of course, the sexy ref you see in all those fun videos. So she asked me if I wanted to try it. And like I said, I'd never wrestled before. I'd never done anything. The very first time I got my ass handed to me, and I was like, no, I can do better than this. So like I'd always been more of an athletic person, and I got like really competitive with it, and I just started winning, and I was like, yeah, I got this. Like, and then I started getting a lot more fans for wrestling. They're like, oh, I'd love to see you do like a scissor hold video. I'm like, what's a scissor hold video? I've never heard of this. Like, I know lesbian scissor holds. I've done plenty of those. What are you talking about, sir? So I started doing scissor hold videos, and really just kind of took off from there. People started seeing me for my big booty and my thighs, and they became known as like, I started calling myself the Big Booty Savannah Fox, and kind of like that's like my wrestler nickname that stuck. Then I met Jennifer Thomas at the time, and she was like, she comes from a big background of like more pro style stuff. So she's like, hey, I want to show you some moves. I think you could be really good. So like we hit off right away. Like we both like, I love, because I'd already kind of done a lot of acting in movies and things like that. Like I loved like the over the top like hamminess of like the live wrestling events. Like it was a lot of fun.
So let's actually talk about that too, because obviously I know you as Big Booty Savannah Fox. That's how I know you. And you type in Big Booty Savannah, you type in Big Booty Fox, you come up. And you type in Big Booty Wrestlers, I mean, you're there. And that's your brand in certain regards. And then obviously being an Ultimate Surrender, because I think people forget that while it's kinky, while it's adult, for lack of a better word, it is still competitive wrestling to some degree. And I think people forget that just because what happens around 4, there's still 3 rounds before round 4. Hey, it's a tax write-off, everybody, so don't judge. Just because I read the IRS code does not mean you can't read it too. But what happens in round 4 is very different than what happens in the first 3 rounds. And what is that like? Because it is competitive wrestling in a lot of ways, and it is athletic, and it's very, very, very interesting. And what was that whole thing? Because I think people forget when they see Ultimate Surrender and when they see Evolve fights and some other things that, hey, this is real to some degree.
Absolutely. So especially for the Ultimate Surrender, like it's 100% real competitive wrestling. There's especially, different people have different levels of competitiveness that they'll take it to. So for me, like I'll always like, even though I'm trying to win, I don't want to give somebody a bloody nose. I don't want to knock them unconscious or, scratch their eyeballs out. So I try to be a little bit more careful of what I'm doing, my body and stuff like that. And sometimes when you wrestle somebody who's never done or anything and they're super experienced and they just want to fucking win, they go balls to the wall. And all of a sudden you're like, whoa, what the, like, so it's definitely, and it's hard because like, if you haven't wrestled somebody, you don't know like their skill set, where you're going to be, where they're going to be. And because it's a lot longer rounds, even than normal professional wrestling, we're wrestling for a long time. So all that beginning part, that's 100% true. So
you mentioned something, and I think this also applies to Evolve fights as well, is that you don't want to incapacitate another person and another model. And I mean, obviously, if you watch enough of things, and Kink does a really good job where they ask what people's limits are. And so they might not want to be boxed out in their ears. They might not be able to have certain marks on them. They might not want certain things to be done to them. People might have sensitive feet, or a sensitive part of their body. And so what is that like too? Because you want to win, but you don't want to break somebody's arm. And
exactly.
it's tricky because I don't know how much you know about professional wrestling, but Randy Orton did a bit and he was explaining, oh, no, I'm sorry that you got knocked out and I broke your arm. You're the top guy and I'm the number 2 guy. It looks like I'm the number 1 guy. I'm sorry that I suplexed you wrong. It's like, and it's funny when Randy Orton says it, but there is some element of truth to that. And what is that like to make sure it's safe? Because I think people also forget that it's not a traditional shoot when you're doing Evolve Fight and Ultimate Surrender. It's anything but traditional.
Absolutely. And that's like, it's almost kind of even down to like you said, like back in the day, like wrestling, like especially like like that was brutal. Like that was, like you said, it was kind of more of like a dog eat dog world. Now I feel like even if you're doing the professional stuff, like it's all planned, it's all scripted out. It's become like it's more of a show than actual wrestling. So I feel like we already know, like, okay, we want to win, but at the end of the day, we're both performers too. You know what I mean? I don't want, like you said, I'm not trying to break somebody's arm. I'm not trying to hurt somebody. Like, I want to win, but there's sometimes you'll run into people. And I think it's more of an inexperience than anything else. People who have been doing this, and this comes from whether it's like more of an adult related side, more of a professional side, just fetish videos of girls wrestling naked, and that's all that happens in the video. You always want to be respectful of the person that you're rolling around with. So it is a fine line to walk. And I think the more you do it, the more you become aware of yourself, your body, where they're going. It's a lot of the wrestling stuff. People ask me like, oh, did you do jujitsu? Did you do this? I'm like, I'm like, I did Ultimate Surrender. Like, doing it a while, you kind of get a self of like your body, what it feels like to be here. This is like, oh, you can use your weight to do this. If you grab somebody there, then they can't move. So, and I feel like usually to the girls who first start out, especially if they're strong to start out with, like they're like, they can fuck some shit up, then they just kind of, they get that anger with them too. Like they're just like, oh, I'm not winning. Like, and they don't realize that it's not brute strength, it's skill. So like that's where it like kind of comes into play. But for the most part, I say any girl who've done this like a couple of times and they start to realize, okay, like this is where I need to be and this is my mindset. And if they're not like that people don't want to work with them, and then they won't hire them back. So they don't tend to last that long.
And then obviously Ultimate Surrender, I don't know what happened to it, but Evolve Fights kind of took it over. I mean, we don't have to get into all the details about that. At some point, I'm hoping to get Ariel X on my show, and that's something that I would love to talk to her about because I think she's one of the smartest business women ever. I really do. And I think it'll be a really interesting conversation with her if that ever happens. We were in talks, and then things fell apart, and then things happened. But I digress right there. But what is that like? Because I feel like Evolve Fights, both on the men versus women side, is cool. And I know you've had a few of those matches. And then some of those are really fun. And then if you want, you can tell that story. But more importantly, I feel like Evolve is bigger now than Ultimate Surrender. I feel like it's kind of taken its place and evolved out of it. No pun intended. And what has that been like? Because it has its own thing that's separate from kink. And it's its own entity. And it's a very cool thing to see. And I also feel like that site is cleaner to operate than kink sometimes.
It is, especially because we'll make a long story short, but kind of kink decided to part ways with their directors as far as like they used to do everything in-house from like hiring models, production, sets, lighting, assistants, start to finish. It was done in kink in San Francisco. So they kind of pulled, like, I would say they modeled it instead after Evil Angel, where it was, okay, you can kind of use our site and our platform, but now you have to pay for everything. Like, we're not going to pay for your models. We're not going to pay for your sets. We're not going to pay for your location, all of your equipment.
We took an IC approach.
Yes.
For a better word. For those who don't know what an IC is, independent contractor or independent, or we're going to, buy what you're producing for $2,000 and you figure out the expenses type model.
Yes. So at the time, Ariel did have Ultimate Surrender and she did kind of like try to keep it up. But then they got a little weird with her, like, oh, well, these episodes, they don't really make sense together. We want just a tournament. So she was like, okay. And then I think she kind of wanted to take her, since she'd had that site for so long, but she wanted to change it and kind of make it into her own. And I think that was almost like more of a catalyst for her to go ahead and do that. And, we've said like a lot of times, like, lesbian wrestling is cool, but sometimes we want to see the guy and girl stuff or like an involved fight. So she went ahead.
It's interesting on the indies. I love seeing men and women tear it up. I love seeing it. And I'll be honest, and even in WWE, Nia Jax in the Men's Royal Rumble a few years ago was amazing. You had, I forgot what it was. You had Rey Mysterio give her a 619. You had Randy Orton RKO her. And then I forgot who was the third person that did something that was great. But I mean, Nia took it like a champ. like she took it like a champ, and it was amazing. And it was a massive pop. And I think she's the second woman to be in a Men's Royal Rumble ever. But I like seeing men versus women, and I like seeing equal rights, equal fights is the saying.
Equal fights, equal rights. Yeah, like you said, like it created like a niche for like it's not a big thing that's done on TV, and I think that's one of the almost the last frontiers for them. Like they've come like so far from back in the day, like the backyard wrestling. I'm gonna climb this fucking 3 times high ladder and jump on you on top of a chair, on top of a table. Like shit used to get crazy back then, and I feel like now it's like this big show. It's this big over the top thing, and then but at the same time, we still don't have the big men versus women going on, you know?
No, I enjoy a lot of it. I enjoy a lot of it. What is done, I have no problem saying that. It is very entertaining, very entertaining. You know, watching men and women fight in Evolve, and then watching women and women fight is also extremely entertaining. We all have our favorites, but I will plead the fifth. But I'm gonna get in so much trouble. I'll be lucky if I have a job on Monday. Let's leave it at that. It's all right. I'm not self-employed fully yet. Just terrible. It's just terrible. Luckily, hopefully nobody at my work is seeing this. Hopefully, if they are, they're gonna learn a lot about me tonight.
If they are, they better follow me on Twitter, tell me about it or something.
Between that and last Sunday, you know, I'll be perfect. I really don't want to get called into HR, but I digress. But going back into wrestling, because I do want to back out of Ultimate, Surrender and Evolve. Obviously, you had a very, very fun match with somebody very close to you that I enjoyed. I'm not going to say who it was. I'm not going to say who it was. You can. I won't.
Do we share the same last name?
Maybe. I mean, it's your call. I mean,
his butt might look a little bit like mine. It must be Brad Pitt. Totally Brad Pitt.
Totally. There's a million things that can be said on that. A million things that we're just gonna leave it. We're all just gonna nod in agreement that's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna all nod in agreement. So, but you did mention Jen Thompson. I love Jen Thomas. I love LFC. I just had Jen Thomas on, and I interviewed her on my birthday of all days to interview her for the second time, which was really fun. We had a really good interview, and I might be doing something with her hopefully this year. And either I will have a lot of new fans myself, or a bunch of people will question who exactly I am. Don't worry, everybody. You're just going to learn a lot more about who I am. But anyway, she runs Session Girls, and I think you're part of Session Girls.
Absolutely.
And I think you do some custom wrestling. I think you do some session wrestling. And I think people forget that you're a damn good wrestler. It's not just adult. I mean, people do session wrestling. I haven't done a session wrestling event thing ever. I don't know if it's for me, but I know that it's huge, and I know that it's interesting. I know it can be very competitive, or it could be fantasy, or it could be semi-competitive. And what is that like? Because obviously it's something that people want, and you provide, and it's a cool platform for that.
Absolutely. I found Session Girls about 5 or 6 years ago. And at first I was kind of like, okay, what is this? And I had a friend of mine explain, she's like, oh yeah, like guys will like actually pay you to like wrestle you. I'm like, okay. And then she's like, some guys, like, you know, they just want you to be mean and kind of like beat them up. And then some guys want to really wrestle you. And then some, I'm like, okay. And then I started doing a lot more wrestling videos and things like that. And then the more I started doing videos, the more kind of like sessions I started booking with people. So I went and did a tour like across the United States. So, and I really enjoy doing the sessions because I get to meet all of my fans. People get to experience something they wouldn't necessarily get to experience in real life. And I love that I can provide a service and a safe space for that because, you know, sometimes it's hard with people in relationships or people might feel like they're going to get judged and just like, hey, want to wrestle you? Like, hey, do you want to like totally dominate me and like choke me and like, you know, sit on my face? What? But I get to do all of those things. So I really have a good time. I'm so thankful, Jennifer, for starting Session Girls because it really connects, I think, a lot of the girls with their friends personally. And I've had a lot of people tell me like, oh, you know, I love watching you. Like, I'm so happy to meet you. Like you changed my life with stuff. Like now I'm a lot more outgoing. Like, so I really think it's a really good thing. Plus, like you said, we started doing live events where if people don't know who Jennifer Thomas is, she's done a lot of professional wrestling for a while. She goes by Jennifer the Bloody Valentine. She started doing the LFC. And so in 2020, we started to do like, let's do a live event where people, you know, can get tickets. We have this whole show that we put on just like a normal, you know, actual wrestling event. And then people, what we did was you can either stream it, you can get there the ticket, and then we did like a VIP party afterward where, you know, there's private matches going on. You can watch, you can book like a mini session with the girls if you want, you know, we're having drinks. It's all a really good fun time. We actually just got to do one a year or two ago. We rented this venue in Chicago and it was right across the street from Wrigley Field. And the front of it was all glass. So you can see into what was going on. So
So let's actually talk about this too, because obviously it goes back to branding to some degree. And if you're going across the US, I mean, I'll be honest, I'm a huge wrestling fan and I've never been to St. Louis, but I love a promotion in St. Louis and I'm able to stream it. And so when they're on, I'm able to watch it. You know, it's an hour after my time, so I'm Eastern, and they're streaming at 8 o'clock. It's 9 o'clock here, but I'm not in St. Louis, but I'm engaging with the show live. And I think it's something that's interesting. And it's kind of like if baseball teams travel all over the United States. So if you are a Mets fan and you live in California, there's a good chance you can see the Mets 18 times a year. And I think it's very same thing if you're a California living in New York and you love the Dodgers. The Dodgers are going to be in New York 2 or 3 times a year, or maybe 6 times a year now. And so you can go see it. And I think it's very interesting. And it's kind of like the WWE2 is that they travel all over the world. And so I think it's fascinating because it's not just, you know, obviously there's money involved and you're getting paid and you're probably making good money doing it. And that's important too. But, you know, not everybody can come and see you wherever you are. I don't know exactly where you are. You don't have to disclose that. But if somebody lives in Chicago, they might not want to come down to New York or Connecticut or go up to Maine if you're in any of those states. But if you're going to Chicago and they're in Chicago, well, it's doable.
absolutely. And that's what I really love about getting to travel. Like you said, some people like they can't travel, don't have the time to do it. So it's like so much better, I think, when and it gives you more of an opportunity when somebody's coming towards you, coming through a big city. And it's nice now because pretty much all the cities that I go to now, at least like I see the same people over and over, and I get to add new people to it as well.
No, it's fascinating. It's fascinating. I have and she disappears. She just disappears.
Oh, get water. You're good.
She's like, I'm out of here, guys. I'm just out of here. This is it. This is it. But and even to go further into that as well. Obviously, when you are, because I think this is an issue, and this is just, and I'm curious what you think is. I see a wrestler on TV, I see an adult entertainer, I see a model, and then I don't ever see them in person, or they're behind closed doors, or they're professionally protected, might be another good way to put it. They're not real to me. And so I'm fortunate enough that I get to interview a lot of people. I get to interview a lot of voice actors. And when I'm sitting down with somebody in an interview, they become tangible. And I think it's a really, really complicated thing when somebody is session wrestling with you or interacting with you or seeing you live at an event. It's you become tangible and you become a real person. I don't know if that makes any sense, but we're on equal footing on what we are as people. And I think it's a real issue, I guess, right now due to COVID and a bunch of other things. And I think that also is fascinating what's going on, because I think sometimes people are put up on pedestals or they're untouchable, for lack of a better word.
Absolutely. I agree with you. Once you kind of get a different level of interaction, like you said, they're never going to talk to you. They're never going to talk to you on Twitter or Instagram, let alone in real life or anything else like that. They're not answering your fan mail, probably. So I feel like it's definitely different. And especially, like I said, for me, it's somebody who doesn't necessarily get to experience something in their real life, or like this is an interest to them, but they don't feel like they're like in a space or relationship or, to do this stuff. So I feel like as far as it becoming tangible and like a different space, like you said, especially during COVID, it was kind of hard because I was in the middle of actually doing a tour and I had to stop because I had bookings in California for like Los Angeles and San Diego, and they weren't letting you rent any hotels if you didn't have a California license. So it kind of really put a damper on stuff. But at the same time, I think when it actually did come back, a lot more people, I think, have been exposed to this, and it's becoming almost mainstream. Like I'll use an example, like OnlyFans. Back 5 years ago, what the fuck is OnlyFans? And now it's like all over pop culture. It's in rap songs, it's in TV shows, it's in movies. It's hilarious. I find it. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, so let's actually dive into that too, because OnlyFans is confusing to me, and I've played around with it, and I don't have a problem with it, but I know that there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. And I was speaking to my guest on Sunday. She has an OnlyFans, and she said it's kind of like running a daycare and babysitting people. And I laughed because I thought it was funny. I can imagine there's a reason why I don't have an OnlyFans, because OnlyFans doesn't have to be for adult stuff, guys. It's like Patreon, and you could have an OnlyFans for anything you want to have it for. By definition, just because it leans one way doesn't mean that it has to be used for that. But what was that like? Because there's a learning curve to that. There's complications to that. It is extremely interesting on what's going on with it right now. They can be extremely draconian from what I hear on issues. And there's all these rules and people think it's easy.
It's definitely not easy. I think too, because it has enjoyed such notoriety in the past couple of years. It's almost become flooded with people. You know what I mean? So it's hard to find, like, maybe once upon a time, oh, I want to find a girl who's, like you said, who's a wrestler. Before there was maybe 2,000. Now there's 200,000 girls on there. And I think the combination of, they do have a lot of strict rules. Like, for example, if I'm in a video and I'm wrestling somebody else, I need to have either their OnlyFans tagged in the post, otherwise they'll take it off my page. Or I need to have, basically, they do like a biometric scan of your face. So you actually do have your face scanned in order to make sure this is you in the video, the other person in the video is who they say they are. And then, you do have all these people messaging you constantly. So depending on how many people are messaging you, it's hard to kind of keep up on doing all of it.
So let's actually talk about that too, because this is, and I'm curious what you feel, because I feel podcasting. I've been podcasting both pre-recorded and live for almost 10 years now. And when I first started, it was a hell of a lot easier, and I had no idea what I was doing, and I was fearless, and I would just ask everybody and anybody, and I got some pretty big names on my show. And I was stupid enough that apparently people put their emails in weird places that are not protected, and they're thrilled when you email them. Big people are thrilled when you email them. It's a weird concept, everybody. It's really weird where you find somebody's email. Where I found Chris Daniels' email is a very weird place. It was in the back of a comic book of all places. And it was great. It was great. The whole thing was great. I just emailed him and he said, "Yeah, I'll be on your show, no problem." And then I interviewed Kazarian, who I really enjoyed too. Same deal. So the point that I'm getting at is, but now fast forward 10 years later, media is fragmented and it's a disaster and it's so hard to get attention. Yet I have a reputation that I do get big names on my show still, but not because of my viewership, but because I've been around for 10 years and I've interviewed all their friends. And then they're like, "Well, I don't want to be out of the club." But so I'm curious, and I guess my question is rooted in what is that like? Because now there's 20,000 new girls coming on every single year, and money and media and attention is fragmented. I would say, unless I'm wrong. I mean, and so how do you navigate that? Because that would, I guess, fuck with my head.
It definitely is, to succeed, like you said, in brand in this like day and age, because everything is so saturated pretty much in every market. You know, the internet has become this ginormous, like it's so saturated across the board in everything, I think. And in order to kind of get yourself out there and be a, you know, getting those people, getting those fans, getting that access, you can't just do one thing. You know, you have to kind of do a little bit of everything. Like I'll have my OnlyFans, but then like I also have my own personal website where people can go get my content. I also have something called Clips for Sale, which is basically, if people haven't heard of it before, it's like the biggest fetish internet site. Like they're like second behind Pornhub with graphic drawing, which is another can of worms. So, and then with Pornhub, you know, you're kind of at a catch-22 because you want to put stuff out there so people can see you and get more fans, but at the same time, you're kind of giving your content away for free.
Let's talk about that too, because obviously so you put something on OnlyFans, it's behind a paywall for the most part. Hopefully most of it's behind a paywall, but stuff gets stolen all the time. And that's an issue of stealing. And obviously, I'm sure clips from my interviews have been stolen without a doubt. I'm sure of it. I mean, things also, I've been credited and stuff. And if somebody credits me and then I think I got 5 million views and I get credit, I really don't care because that's worth way more.
Oh, dare you.
It's worth way more. It's worth way more. If somebody takes a 30-second clip, credits me, and that thing gets 5 million views, without a doubt, I'm getting traffic. So I'm not one to torture people. But if somebody stole a whole interview and put it up on their YouTube channel, I found out, I'd be pissed. Because they just took something from me and they took revenue from me. So I'd be pissed about it. And I'm sure stuff gets stolen from you off of your OnlyFans. It has to. I mean, it has to. It's just, and stuff gets taken from Clips for Sales. I would imagine stuff gets taken from Evolve fights. And so what is that like? Because again, you want people to see you, but you also don't want to give everything for free, but you have to kind of give something for free. And it gets tricky. I mean, my whole show is free. So I don't have to worry about charging and being behind a paywall. But if certain things were behind a paywall, it would be a nightmare. So what is that like for you? Because you want to protect your brand, but you got to get attention. And I have a headache asking the question.
It is. It's definitely tricky because, you know, even when I'll have things I'll put something like on my website or my OnlyFans, and then once it's been up there for a while, you know, it's been up there for a year. Okay, then I'll put like a smaller version of it. Oh, say this video was 20 minutes. Okay, I'll do a 7-minute video and I'll put it on Pornhub. So that way, at least, you know, people are getting to see something, but my fans who paid for their stuff also feel like they're not like seeing things for free other places. So, but what really sucks, like you said, is I'll have like people steal like full-length videos or things that like a lot of people don't realize, when we're doing production like this, it does cost money. We got to rent a location, you got to buy an outfit for it. You got to there's a lot of things that go behind all this. I got to hire a videographer. I got to have lighting. I got to have somebody edit the video for me. So it would really frustrate me when I see like one tube site and it's got like 50 videos of mine absolutely for free, and I literally just released them. So that's definitely really frustrating as well.
So I guess the question is that obviously I don't go through who's taking my stuff, but if something got 10 million views of mine that it wasn't mine, I would be notified because it would be appearing, because I'll do a search on YouTube and I'll type in all my keywords for an interview. And if something pops up that isn't, kosher or blessed by me, somebody stole something from me without asking my permission. And I didn't really care because it didn't do well and it doesn't hurt me. And then he tagged me like 30 times on Twitter, which was helpful. But again, I wish he asked first. But what do you do when a tube site has 50 of your videos that were just released? Because I think that's one of the biggest problems right now with media collectively is how do you protect your content? And I don't know, because I'm not in that sector, but I know it's a problem.
It is. What we try to do now is I do a combination of, I'll just kind of Google my name on the internet and when I see things that come up. So as far as what's really nice about Pornhub is pretty much the only site that will do this, where say somebody took my video and they put it on Pornhub themselves, right? So that's when like the other views come and say, like, okay, this video has 5 million views. I let Pornhub know, like, hey, this is mine. They stole it from me. And then they'll add it to my channel. So that way I do get credit for that, and all their stuff does transfer to me. But if it's a lot of on these more in-between sites and things like that, it's really hard to even track down where that person came from, where they stole that content, how to get them to take it down. You can kind of, basically, I start with like sending like a cease and desist letter. Most of them get ignored though. So unless like you go to a lawyer and actually hire a lawyer to start that process, it's a really big uphill battle to even do that in the first place. So I'll try to, a lot of the times, like I always put a watermark in my videos so that when people see them, they're at least seeing my name and like, oh, okay, I liked this video. Let me go Google her, check out her social media and her website. So at least like, I think if somebody liked me, then I'm kind of maybe drawing them towards me. Come the fuck back here.
So let me ask this, because do you feel that sometimes people don't know what goes into making content, developing content, ideas of content, also time? Because I interview a lot of people and some people get it immediately what goes into an interview. It's not just, oh, we're going live on the air and I don't have questions. I do homework on my guests. I understand. I have costs on my end. Obviously, it's my time. I edit this thing up and I cut it into micro content. I share it out to a bunch of places. And I think a lot of people, and I would say half my guests, have no fucking idea what goes into a small production, let alone what you're doing, which is a much larger production than me by far. And I don't think people even realize that sometimes they're stealing. Because they're like, oh, what am I doing? I'm not causing her any harm. She's making millions of dollars. But if everybody stole your clips and didn't pay for it, you'd be out of business pretty quickly. I mean, I don't think I'm saying anything like that's not true.
No, it's 100% true. A lot of people too, especially, they feel like, oh, well, you like this, so why wouldn't you just do this? A, B, they're just like, oh, let me just like, I picked up a camera, I recorded myself real quick, and that was it. They don't realize like, oh, okay, no, like, I'm shooting with this model. I either gotta fly somewhere, book a hotel. I gotta find a location to shoot. I gotta find a videographer to shoot it. I gotta, get the right camera. Make sure you got the brand new camera to record everything on. You don't want to have a shit camera. You gotta have nice lighting for your set. You gotta have the outfits for your set, and then you gotta do post production as well.
Yeah, I don't think people have a real clue. I don't think people have a real clue how business works, and I think it's a problem. And I think that or they don't care, or what you have is that you have a bunch of people, and I don't want to specifically say men or women because it could be both. I mean, I don't know if your demographic, but it could be both. There's plenty of women who like adult entertainment stuff too. But it's the idea that I don't know if that maybe they're just tapped out economically and they're like, well, I'm just going to take it because I want it. Or if they don't think about it, or they're like, hey, I bought half your shit and I'm going to take the other half. Like it becomes problematic. And, and also it's kind of like somebody's like, oh, I'm not even thinking if this is going to the model because, and that's an issue too, but I digress. People, just, I don't think they get it. I don't think they get it, and plenty of shit's pirated all the time. It's not just this; it's a massive issue. But I digress because I do want to talk about clips for sales and many vids and all that stuff too, because I think that is the most brilliant thing for your industry.
It is. It gives a lot of people and creators a platform where they wouldn't necessarily be able to have exposure and that level of traffic to start off with, especially if you're a new performer, or just, it's hard to just when you make your own like website itself, you're having to hire a webmaster. You have to find somebody you're trusting with all of your content. Unfortunately, even on like that side, a lot of people will make your website for you for free, and then they snickered you into now they own all of your content too in exchange for doing that website. So it's really hard to even just start off with your own stuff, and it's very daunting. So Clips for Sale and many vids, they offer a really good platform to connect girls personally to their fans and buy that content.
So to even, I take a different view on many vids and clips for sale, where I think it is part of the equation for a adult entertainer, a model, a porn star, whatever you identify as yourself as. I think what it does is that it creates passive income, and it creates really a passive income stream. I don't think people should view it as an active income stream. And the reason why I bring this up is that obviously I'm in the comic, the anime, the cosplay world, the wrestling world, and I think people need to learn that you need to have many passive income streams and active income streams. And I'm a dividend investor. And every month I get my dividend payments like clockwork, and it's cash that I can use for whatever I want to use it for. And I don't have to go out and earn that money, but I have a day job. And I think that's why many vids and clips for sale are fascinating. And I think it's the biggest failure in the pop culture space is that they haven't built something comparable to that. Even if you're only getting 30% of it and the site's getting 70, and I don't know the breakdown. I think, what is it? Many vids gives you 80, I think, right? Is it 80-20?
No, it's a 60-40. So they get you get 60 and they get 40.
You're still getting 60%, but if you have to actively make the content. Once the content's there, you don't have to do anything with your content as far as the website. And it becomes a massive passive income platform. And if you keep adding content and content and content, it's just every single video becomes an entry point to make money. And so if you're charging $10 and you pulling 6 on it, but you didn't do any more work and you made the content once, there you go. And what you should really do is make it on a custom, then put a patch in there, have somebody else pay for it for the custom. And then you put that custom up and you just patch out a piece of it, and there you go. That's really how you make money, everybody, in this industry. For somebody who's never done this, for somebody who's never been in this industry, I know way too much. Way too much.
The research.
But that's my opinion on it. And I think it's brilliant because I think that if you're doing session girls, you're doing modeling, you're shooting mainstream stuff, you're doing evolve fights, and then you have a bunch of stuff on many vids, clips for sales, and some other places. You have multiple incomes.
Absolutely. And that's honestly, like you said, you have to have multiple streams of income for it. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to be a success. There's so much on the internet. You have to kind of be a part of each store, each kind of platform. Because then some people, like you said, like, oh, I only go on many vids. I don't go on Clips for Sale. I only use OnlyFans, or, this is what. So you kind of have to go with what people's preferences are, where they're seeing you, where they're buying from, just like, any other consumer.
Yeah, no, I agree. And even speak on that, and then I'm going to let you get out of here. But I do want to ask you two more questions. One of them is going to be fun, but I am curious where you see the industry going, because obviously I am a fan and I am a consumer of this. I enjoy certain content. I enjoy a variety of interesting things. We'll leave it at that. I will put myself in a nicer light, in a much more sun god light, in case anybody doesn't know what I'm on a One Piece kick, everybody. That show's just getting so good, and that manga's just getting so good. But and anybody who's reading it understands the reference. But where do you see the industry going? Because it's obviously changed. There's obviously a lot of pressure from a lot of different areas, both governmental, society, other elements, other people coming in. I think corporations and big corporations getting involved. And I'm curious what you feel and what you see, because you're in the industry and I'm looking in.
Honestly, it's the future for it. It's so unstable. I can definitely say that, but there's so many different directions it can go into. I feel like it's definitely going to implode in the next like 5 years. I think one of the major threats to this, honestly, is AI and being able to have this software that we have right now where people are generating whole social media profiles, whole videos, things of completely AI generated women that you would never know. They look like a real girl. They dance, they sing, they're out in public, they're taking pictures. That's really the scary part, because then
have you seen my Sasha Nakamoto interview?
I have not. No.
Sasha Nakamoto is on StreamMate, or was. I don't want to get into that. That's a complicated issue. I know certain things that I can't disclose about it, but Sasha Nakamoto was a high-end VTuber, and her handler, and she runs on a real video game engine. And so the equipment, her gloves, just to control her hands, are $9,000 gloves, which is insane. I mean, the fiduciary on who she is, what she is a video game engine character, VTuber, porn star.
Okay.
Camera on StreamMate. And there's little Fujimoto, I want to say, or Fujimata. I forget the other one. They switch off on their equipment, but ultra expensive to run something like that. But it's an AI controlled hybrid motion capture cam girl, but it's not a real person. And that's where I think we're going. And that is trippy as fuck. It's a trippy interview. It's up there. It's in my top 10 without a doubt. But continue. Sorry.
No, you're fine. And then, like you said, again, it can go one way, which it's really, really good, where, it's, like you said, completely meta universe style, or it can go the complete opposite way and increase piracy to like a ridiculous degree, because it's this AI generated. Somebody could take my face and my body and just completely rob me of my own stuff. So, or even just make actual models completely obsolete, because everything now they're doing AI generated, everything from fashion modeling to like other different types of adult and things like that. So it really is going to be interesting to see where it goes from here.
No, I'm very curious, and I'm a big AI proponent, but obviously I like it for other things, and it's a real issue in comics, and it's a real issue in a lot of things, and I don't know where it's going, but I do like AI learning components, because if an AI machine can learn the best from the 100 best teachers, and then it could teach me, it's just going to make me smarter. But also the question is that, what about when I have kids? Are they all not going to learn some skills and then just be taught AI? And there is ethics in that. And but that's like days of conversations, days. But I'm going to leave it at that. I don't want to get into that conversation because that'll be days, and that's a rabbit hole that me and Alice don't want to go down. I'm a huge Alice in Wonderland fan, so sorry everybody. I'm also a huge Sonic the Hedgehog fan, guys. But I do want to get to the fun question before I give you a chance to promote yourself. And obviously, Sunday's the Super Bowl. So if the Chiefs win, is Travis Kelce proposing to Taylor Swift? Because these are the most important questions.
This is the most important question. I'm gonna say no.
Alrighty. I mean, if they lose, we know the answer. If they lose, I mean, it's a given. If they lose, he's not proposing. Um, but I don't know, because that's like the big bet in Las Vegas right now. That's really the big bet in Las Vegas is he going to propose? Because let's put it this way: if he doesn't, she says yes. He doesn't need an MVP trophy. He doesn't need one. He's golden for life. Because their kids will be beautiful and can sing, dance, and throw footballs and catch them too. And that's all that matters. That's what America needs. But I digress. I do want to let you get out of here. But before we do that, I do want to give you a chance to promote yourself. Where can people find you, bother you, hit you up, check out what you do, buy your merch, buy your clips, maybe see you wearing that bikini, all that fun stuff.
Absolutely. So for my Twitter people, you could find me at the Big Booty Fox XXX. That's my main account. And then I like to do my wrestling under It's Savannah Fox. And then I do have some farting fans. That's another can of worms. That handle is Girl Gone Gassy. And then on Instagram, it's The Real Savannah Fox. You can also find me on my member site, which is savannahfox.com, where, and of course, the OnlyFans, which is onlyfans.com/SavannahFoxXXX.
And then I'm just going to say that if you enjoy this interview, you enjoy Savannah, obviously you should go and follow her on social media first and foremost. And then if you really want to do some cool stuff, obviously maybe you go look at a 7-minute clip. And then if you like that even more, you go to a bunch of her sites and you buy some of that stuff, because you should buy things legally because people need it. And so, yeah, but you don't have to buy everything. But if you buy like one or two for starters, and you can go piece by piece by piece, but it is important. And this goes for everything. And I'm just going to say it is that if you're into manga, you're into comics, you're into Netflix, you're into TV shows, buying stuff legally is massively important. And I get it. It sucks because you can't buy everything. I get it completely. But you know, it is when you buy something legally, you are supporting that growth of that product. And it does help to get the next stuff made. And if you were making some stuff, you would want it to be bought legally too. So that's something that I do remind people. And then as far as I'm concerned, I am Pop Anime Comics on Twitter. I am Pop Anime Comics on Instagram. I am Pop Anime Comics on Facebook. You can try to find me on Facebook. If you find me, hey, I found you from this interview, I'll probably accept your friend request. But I'm going to give everybody a code word. One Piece, use that, and I will most likely accept your friend request, or you could refer to me as the Sun God. I am more than happy with that too. Again, it's a One Piece reference. We all thought the gum fruit was the gum fruit. It's not, everybody. Spoiler alert. We all learned something like 3 chapters ago in One Piece that changed the whole show's perspective. But I digress. And I am Pop Anime Comics on TikTok, Pop Anime Comics on YouTube, and I run a pretty big eBay store that I may or may not have bought a bunch of Taylor Swift books. Yes, I am a Swiftie, and yes, they are expensive. They are expensive because a lot of them are sold out. And if you want them, I have them, and that's what I got. And I do have this merch in my store, but it might be invisible. So there you go. That just came out, and I have 10 of them in my store. So if you'd like one of those, it is a hard card that it might be invisible. But I digress. That's everything I got going on, and I will give you the final word.
Oh, absolutely. Well, it's very nice having me on. For all of my fans who are already fans of mine, it was nice to hear you, see you, and I hope I made some new ones tonight. Hope y'all come follow me on social media. See what's all the fun about.
I don't think I could have said that any better, my celebrity, and that is a wrap.